We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power. Fight the power.
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, 'cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right, we gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
Protests and anthems, yes, we chanting. A movement of people, it's like we dancing to the ministry of. It's the energy of, in memory of them that we love. The trinity of the people, the peace, the power, the truth. We speak the powers even louder. We can say it blacker, we can say it prouder. A woman vice president that went to Howard. Now we talk helping black businesses, and our differences is magnificent. Bringing light to the point where the prisons is. I was so good, like this where forgiveness lives. The ascension is to leave what's left behind and feed the seeds with deeds that bless the mind, caress the mind, and question justify. With you and God in time, I best align.
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, 'cause good things happen.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, your host and White House correspondent. I'm in touch, and so guess what? You have an invitation to be in touch. An invitation to be in touch by simply downloading the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or simply tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580, and there we are for your listening pleasure. Also, be sure to subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast. That way, you will never, ever, ever, ever miss an episode. Last but not least, be sure to tap in this Wednesday. This Wednesday, we'll be on the ground and leading a very important town hall. We haven't forgotten about Altadena, the people of Altadena, and neither should you. This Wednesday, April 16th, is day 100. Day 100 since the wildfires erupted in Altadena. We're asking you to join us this week for our live nationally broadcast KBLA Talk 1580 Town Hall as we commemorate this fateful day, celebrate the resilience of Altadenians, and embrace this beloved Black community. We'll be giving away air purifiers and $100 gift cards to survivors. So please, please, please come join us on Wednesday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific for our town hall, the Altadena Eat and Fire 100 Days and Counting. The event is free, but you must register at KBLA1580.com, where you'll find all the pertinent details about the town hall. And so thanks in advance for folks who are already planning to be there. If you didn't know about it, well, now you know. Now it's time for you to decide the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. Kicking us off, just before we went on air, the New York Times shared some breaking news that the White House is to ask Congress to claw back funding from NPR and PBS. The White House is planning to ask Congress to claw back, get this, more than $1 billion with a B, $1 billion slated for public broadcasting in the United States, according to two people briefed on the plan, a move that could ultimately eliminate almost all federal support for NPR and PBS. The plan is to request that Congress rescind $1.1 billion of federal funding for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. That's the taxpayer-backed company that funds public media organizations across the United States. If Congress agrees, that will amount to about 2 years of the organization's funding, nearly all of which goes to public broadcasters, including NPR, PBS, and their local member stations. The Trump administration isn't planning to ask Congress to claw back about $100 million allocated for emergency communications. Government money accounts for a small part. This is important context. It accounts for a small part of the budget of NPR and PBS, which also generate revenue through sponsorships and donations. But most of the government funding goes to local stations, which rely on its finance. They rely on it to finance their newsrooms and pay for programming. And so this is a hit. If this happens, NPR stations, local stations across the country. We have one not very far from our home station in KBLA. There's an NPR station in Culver City. There may even be an NPR station in your community. But the people who work there, the local programming there, could very well be impacted by this. It really begs the question, with everything that's happening in the world and the impact that these indiscriminate tariffs are having on people's retirement funds, for example, why is the Trump administration going after Big Bird? Why is the Trump administration going after public stations, public broadcasters? We're going to return to that question in due time. But in other news, speaking of the president of El Salvador says that he won't return mistakenly deported man to the United States. I saw this morning. I thought this is wild, and there's a lot of wild things that cross my screen each and every day, sometimes hour by hour. But NBC News is reporting that the El Salvador president told reporters during a meeting with President Trump on today that he would not return a man the Justice Department said it had mistakenly deported to his country. He said, quotes, "How can I return him to the United States? Like if I smuggle him into the United States?" That's what he said, sitting right beside President Trump in the Oval Office. When asked if he'd return Kilmar Abrego Garcia, he went on to say, "Of course, I'm not going to do it. The question is preposterous." Asked if he'd be released in his own country, he said, "We're not very fond of releasing terrorists." You see, Trump then turned to the president of El Salvador and said of the assembled reporters, quotes, "They'd love to have a criminal released into our country. They are sick people." So the sitting president of the United States said today in the Oval Office. Someone who's wrongfully deported. Now, is it just me? Or is one of two things happening? One, is the president in on this? Two, doesn't this make the U.S. presidency look small? The president of the United States can't persuade the president of El Salvador to return someone who was wrongly deported? Aren't we the exceptional nation around the world? Aren't we the world superpower? We can't get the president of El Salvador to return someone who was wrongfully detained and deported? Don't smell right. And I'm sure we will be getting back to that in due time. Moving out of Washington, D.C. To the Keystone State, judge denies bail for the man accused of setting fire at the Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro's residence. A man who allegedly scaled an iron security fence in the middle of the night eluded police to set fire to the Pennsylvania governor's mansion. Well, he was denied bail today as he faces charges including attempted homicide, terrorism, and arson. The Associated Press is reporting that Cody Balmer spoke with a public defender at times as he appeared in court late this afternoon after being released from a hospital where he had been taken for an unrelated medical event. Balmer, 38 years old, of Harrisburg, told the police that he planned to beat Governor Josh Shapiro with a small sledgehammer if he encountered him after breaking into the building. That's according to court documents. A motive for the attack, including whether it had anything to do with Shapiro's politics or religious beliefs, wasn't immediately clear. When I first saw this story, it made me think back to when Nancy Pelosi's husband was bludgeoned in their home in San Francisco. right? And how much more political violence and the threats of political violence are we willing to accept? Sitting governor in what should be one of the safest places for him and his family to be, the governor's mansion in Pennsylvania, set on fire with someone who had an intent to not just harm him, but take a sledgehammer to the sitting governor of Pennsylvania. These are not normal times. When we come forward, we are switching gears, and I'm really delighted to be in conversation with the executive producer and director of two incredible films that you're going to have to check out as we near Earth Day 2025. These are great flicks to celebrate, commemorate Earth Day. We're going to talk all about this and more, especially on the day when folks like CBS co-anchor Gayle King leaves Earth. Well, for a little bit. We'll talk all about that and more when we come forward. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about. Before the fire, Altadena was a real-life Wakanda. A thriving Black oasis just 15 miles from downtown Los Angeles. 80% Black residents were homeowners, building intergenerational wealth against the odds. It was a hub of Black-owned businesses, churches, and cultural institutions. It stood as a symbol of Black resilience and economic independence. Then, in a matter of hours, it was gone. The fire tore through homes, swallowed businesses, and left behind a painful void. But was it just an unstoppable act of nature, or was negligence involved? Did officials ignore early warning signs? Were the response efforts delayed or insufficient? What role, if any, did corporate or government failures play? Survivors are demanding answers. Don't miss our KBLA Talk 1580 Town Hall. The Eaton Altadena Fire, 100 days and counting, on Wednesday, April 16th, 4 to 6 p.m. at the Robinson Park Recreation Center, 1081 North Fair Oaks in Pasadena. Join Dominic DePrima, Nii-Quartelai Quartey, James Farr, Tavis Smiley, and a panel of survivors, community leaders, and experts as we commemorate Day 100 since the wildfires flared up, and we discuss where we go from here. It's KBLA's Eaton Altadena Fire, 100 days and counting Town Hall, Wednesday, April 16th, 4 to 6 p.m. at the Robinson Park Recreation Center in Pasadena. Light refreshments to follow. Admission is free, but sign-up is required at our KBLA1580.com website. The first 100 attendees will receive a complimentary air purifier. This is a community call to action, brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and Quinn Emanuel Trial Lawyers. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
How serious is youth vaping? Irreversible lung damage serious. 1 in 10 kids vape serious, which warrants a serious conversation from a serious parental figure like yourself. Not the seriously know-it-all sports dad or the seriously smart podcaster. It requires a serious conversation that is best had by you. No, seriously, the best person to talk to your child about vaping is you. To start the conversation, visit talkaboutvaping.org. Brought to you by the American Lung Association and the Ad Council.
Thy ticket, Lady Jennifer of Coolidge.
Well, many thanks, good sir. Here'th my Discover card.
They accept Discover at Renaissance fairs?
Yeah, they do here. Discover is accepted at the places I love to shop. Getteth with the times.
With the times? You're playing the lute.
Yeah, and it sounds pretty good, right?
Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
Hit me!
National News The Consequence. Informed opinion. And analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and couldn't be more excited to speak to these two individuals I'm talking about Josh Tickle, who's a journalist, activist, author, and award-winning film director, whose movies include Fuel and The Big Fix, Pump, Good Fortune. He's even been shortlisted for an Academy Award shown at the White House. He's won awards at Sundance. He is somebody. Josh Tickle, welcome to the show.
Dr. Nii-Q, thanks for having me. Good to see you.
It's good to see you, and it's also good to see you in good company. I'm really excited to welcome Ian Somerhalder. Ian is a celebrated actor, environmentalist, humanitarian. He's executive producer of Kiss the Ground and Common Ground documentaries on regenerative agriculture. He is a champion, a real champion for regenerative farming, and we are really delighted to have him here, in part because the proceeds from all that, from Brothers Bond Bourbon, goes to a whole lot of environmental initiatives. I'm a bourbon fan. He clearly is too. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. There's enough bourbon per square inch in this office probably than any place in California. So thank you, Dr. Nii-Q. Josh and I are unbelievably excited and grateful to be on this. You got two Louisiana boys on here from the Bayou. And like you just mentioned, one of them is a shortlisted Oscar director, producer. This is a big deal. And this is how we change the course of history, and not in some BS tree hugging way. I'm talking like boots on the ground, build the country and the world back up from the ground up as opposed from the top down. And that's what we're here to talk about today. You've got one of the most sought after documentary filmmakers in the world right there. This is my brother, Josh.
Well, let me tell you, I know I'm in the best of company. Let me first start off. When I woke up this morning and I watched the first all-female flight crew take off to space, the Blue Origin launch happened today. I watched it from beginning to end. My colleague, Gail King, one of the first journalists to go up to space. When she came down, though, I noticed that she and Katy Perry did the same thing when they got off. They kissed the ground. Kissed the ground. And so, so Ian, kick us off. Did you see the launch this morning? Have you seen some of the coverage? And what's your reaction to, Gail and Katy kissing the ground, the name of one of your documentaries?
It doesn't surprise me. I saw pieces of it. I was changing diapers and cleaning out a chicken brooder because we have 20 chicks in our garage. But one of the things that Josh and I talk about all the time is you see that whether you have ever had a bad experience or a great experience in the ground, or you've ever had a bad experience or a long experience on the ocean, one of the first things you're the most excited to do is what? Just touch the ground, worship the ground. But the craziest thing is, if you look at that Blue Origin launch and you look at, my old buddy Elon, everyone building us to be interplanetary beings, when in fact, we have the single most beautiful place literally in the universe, like legitimately in the universe, right here. And we're destroying it at rapid pace for money and bad legislation. And it's the craziest thing I've ever seen. I've never seen anything like it. That's why Josh and I, we beat our heads together. Let me adjust this Kamara a little bit so I can just look a little prettier for Josh. But isn't that just the wildest thing, that we destroy the one place we have to live, and then we just dream about going and living in these freezing, cold, miserable places on these big ships when we have all of this beauty and nature right here? So I'm glad that Katy Perry kissed the ground because it is the one thing that sustains us and our families. It's literally, this is it. This is it. So hell yeah, man. When I probably come down from space as well, it's the first thing I'm going to do is kiss the ground.
Yeah, I think Gail King not only kissed the ground, I think I audibly heard her say, "And thank you, Jesus." Josh, what did you make of this extraordinary moment where, at least today, we are talking about planet Earth, Mother Earth, in an extraordinary way?
Mm. Well, if you look back at the environmental movement, this moment that really catalyzed much of the environmental movement was seeing the Earth from the first time from space. The
Wow.
blue dot, that photograph that's so famous on the moon's surface looking back at Earth. I think it really conveyed to humanity for the first time how fragile we are.
Yeah.
We're a water-based species on a water-based planet. And all of the water that we rely on as human beings is held in the soil. The oceans are really different types of creatures. We rely on crops and we rely on animals, a little bit on the fish in the sea, but for the most part, we can't live in the sea. So when you think about the blue in the blue dot, the water that sustains us, the fragility of life depends, as we know it, depends on water. And the water that we human beings need is in the soil. And so that's what creates the water cycles that lead to our food, that sustain us, that keep the temperature balanced around the world. A lot of people want to talk about carbon. Carbon doesn't control weather. Water controls weather, right? So when we think about Mother Earth, female Earth, the giver of life, what is life? Water is life, right? So now we have a full female crew, better late than never, right? Going up to view the great mother. These are women, their bodies give life. This is the cycle of water that we're seeing from space. And we're seeing it through the eyes of the divine feminine. I think it's a beautiful thing. And I think this is hopefully the beginning of a new awakening for our species, where we can go, wow, not only do we have the ability to protect this incredible planet that we live upon, we have the ability to thrive as a result of those actions. And that's what Common Ground, the movie, and Kiss the Ground, the movie, and the movement around them, the movement that we call regeneration, that's what it's about. It's about thriving as a species, being healthy in our bodies, healthy food, healthy minds, healthy spirits, and making the earth healthy all at the same time. And people go,
And healthy economies.
Healthy economy. People go, well, it's too much. If we do that, we're going to, we can't, there's this scarcity mentality. And part of what regeneration is breaking that mentality and disrupting it and saying, we have lived inside a false paradigm, right? Me versus you, us versus them, this versus that. And it's like, no, what if we could have abundant food, abundant water, clean, healthy lives?
Yeah.
And a balanced climate all at the same time.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
without involving all the rest of the, noise. We can do it.
And we can do it. And you know what else we can do? On Earth Day, on April 22nd, all of our leaders, learners, and listeners can join the live stream global watch party for the acclaimed documentaries Kiss the Ground and Common Ground. So it's not just one, it's Kiss the Ground and Common Ground. It includes a live Q&A with executive producer Ian Somerhalder, as well as some other familiar names like Demi Moore, Jason Mraz. Who doesn't like Jason Mraz's music? Plus, of course, Big Picture Ranch filmmaker Rebecca Tickell and Josh Tickell. This is a big moment. Ian, talk to us about this particular Earth Day 2025. We have seen, the United States walk back from the Paris Climate Agreement not once but twice. We're seeing a reversal in some of the climate change policies that have been put in place in recent years. Talk to us about what makes this particular Earth Day so very important given the political headwinds in this country and around the world?
Honestly, what I say, you know me, I don't deal in politics. People ask Josh and I all the time to go into politics, and we can, excuse me, effectively do so much more on the outside rather than inside. But here's the thing, and what I'm saying might upset some people and sound controversial. It's never meant to be that. The Paris Climate Accord, listen, everyone likes to make a lot of promises and dream big, and that's great, but without the nuts and bolts to actually execute it. And what's so strange is you've got people, whether it's Elon Musk or Gates or any of these zillionaires, talking about building these fat scrubbers of carbon and all this stuff. And you've got guys like Gabe Brown, who's our dear brother, probably about to be one of the single most famous farmers in the world, just saying, hey, I have a novel idea. Let's grow a plant. We know scalability wise, that large scale regenerative agriculture, just by improving soil organic matter globally by 1%, can bring us down to what we would call zero net carbon. So how is it that we have the smartest people in the room, in the world, trying to build all of these weird machines to scrub out all the carbon, when all we have to do is implement large scale regenerative agriculture to effectively eat all that carbon? So the Paris Climate Accord is like, listen, we can beat each other up. We can try and destroy economies. We can build organizations and federal administrations to rip out all sorts of practices from our economies, when in fact, China is still going to burn coal. India is still going to burn coal. The developing nation is going to develop. So we can't tell them to not do things that we did. Why don't we try this? Why don't we solve for that? Because Boeing and Airbus and civil aviation is still going to continue. Coal is going to still be burned. There are things that are going to happen that we don't necessarily have control over. So rather than beat each other up, destroy our economies, why don't we just implement the single most simplest solution, which is build a large scale global regenerative agricultural economy? And just here in the country, Josh and I look at the numbers all the time. We could sit down with you and show you a graph of how we can build $100 billion a year agricultural economy just in the US. So think about this. These are big numbers. So why is everyone talking about destroying economies for the environment when the environment is, we're all one, right? We're the same environment. What goes on in Brazil or China or India is effectively going to happen here. So when we start implementing large-scale regenerative agriculture, these microclimates are going to start to change. And eventually, globally, we will start sequestering. Listen, we can eat all the carbon we produce right now using large-scale regenerative agriculture. What else do you want? So it doesn't matter what politician or what billionaire is saying, I can do this and we should do that. Hey, how about we stop allowing the largest lawmakers, particularly the US Congress, to allow agrochemical companies to poison our soil, our water, and our air, and actually start giving that money back from the farmer? And this, I know we're out of time, but listen, just think about this. I'm just going to throw these numbers at you. Look, I make whiskey. Actually, here's our regenerative whiskey right here. 200 million grain acres in this country, in the US, production acres, right? Regenerative agriculture can save up to $400 an acre. Now you multiply $400 times 200 million, that's $80 billion a year that we send to foreign countries, to agrochemical companies. Farmers' money, they go to a bank, they borrow it, they grovel for it, then they have to buy crop insurance, and then they just hope and pray it works. Meanwhile, the US government is subsidizing tens of billions of dollars of crops that we don't need to put into a broken, toxic food system. So once we start breaking that cycle, we build the soil, we will build human health. So as human health goes up, human healthcare costs come down, farmers start making more money, that tax base goes up, so school districts are going to get better, water districts are going to get better, that local Chevrolet dealership, people are going to be buying cars, you're going to be buying new houses. This is big business, man. That's how we solve for climate change, not beating each other up and trying to have these big fancy, climate accords where everyone makes a bunch of promises that they literally can't and won't keep. Why are we doing this? That is how we fix it. It's pretty damn simple,
Well, one thing I did not know is that regenerative whiskey was a thing. Ian, hold that bottle up again for folks who are streaming live.
Regenerative agriculture.
It's called Brothers Bond.
Yep. And this is, look at that. Made from regenerative grains from American farms. This is like,
imagine that.
That's amazing. I make this down in Statesville, North Carolina, and these grains come within 5 to 20 miles of the distillery. It's magic, man. This is the future. So like this bottle of whiskey sequestered more carbon than it produced. So you can tell customers that, like, listen, consumers, particularly Gen Z, well, LDA Gen Zs and millennials, they want to know that the companies that they're spending their hard-earned dollars with are doing something good with that money. Brothers Bond is no exception. We were actually the leaders in the whiskey space of that. But like, imagine if every category of businesses started doing that, where you could give customers something more without charging them a single penny extra. That is how you shift business. And so if we can build carbon sequestering food economies and carbon sequestering industrial economies while providing all this climate balance and all this money back into the system, boom, like we're off to the races. Like we're going to crush this. That's why Josh and I know it's not all doom and gloom. We see the data. We see the numbers. We create the graphs. Josh Rebecca's team is like when NASA needs information, like people come to them because we've just aggregated so much data globally that we just know so much. So it is not all doom and gloom. And this Earth Day is so special because that's the message we're saying. It's not all doom and gloom. We're actually going to be okay, but we got to act now. And what better way to do it than say, hey, America, let's start injecting 50 to 80 billion back into middle America. Well, that's the reindustrialization of middle America. Boom.
When we come forward, want to hear from Josh, the author of 4 books. He's worked on environmental issues for over 20 years. For folks who are less familiar with what regenerative agriculture is, we just got a little bit of a crash course, but we're going to go a little bit deeper when we come forward. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. You are listening to and streaming.
Enlightened and empowered about issues related to national politics, elections, identity, culture change, and social justice. You tuned into the right place. A More Perfect Union continues when we come forward.
KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Harvard professors are suing the Trump administration over threats to pull $9 billion in funding unless the school ends its DEI programs, calling it a violation of the First Amendment and Civil Rights Act. Maryland's Black Attorney General Anthony Brown and 19 other attorneys general are challenging a Tennessee law that criminalizes helping minors get abortion care out of state. They argue it's unconstitutional and endangers minors' health. Washington, D.C. leaders are urging the House to pass a Senate bill restoring over $1 billion to the city's budget. With no vote yet, Black Mayor Muriel Bowser has delayed the next budget to avoid major cuts. And James Madison University in Virginia is ending its DEI programs after a unanimous board vote. 4 staff positions are being cut. The move follows President Trump's executive order threatening to pull federal funding from schools that keep DEI initiatives. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Inglewood crash on the 405. This is northbound before Century Boulevard. Middle lanes blocked. Delays pushing back away from El Segundo Boulevard. Getting kind of close now to Rosecrans. Highway patrols running a break to clear this wreck. So watch out. It's going to be tough in Pasadena as well. 210 westbound before Lake. That's where a crash is out of lanes to the right shoulder. And the drive is slowing out of Arcadia, getting away from Santa Anita Avenue. Eastbound delays Mountain in stretches to Azusa. And Moreno Valley, a wreck on the 60 westbound before Heacock Street. They're clearing it out of the left lane. Delays from Nason Street.
Southern California Edison reminds you that downed wires are dangerous. Never approach or touch a downed wire or anything in contact with it. Stay away and call 911. Learn more at sce.com/stay safe.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
North Carolina A&T University was the site for the first class of the Black Sports Writers Hall of Fame. The event on the HBCU campus was Sunday in Greensboro, North Carolina. 3 honorees were inducted. Claire Smith, the first female beat writer to cover a team in Major League Baseball. Claire covered baseball and the Yankees for the New York Times for 47 years. Bill Rhoden, a graduate of HBCU Morgan State, was a longtime columnist for the New York Times and now writes for ESPN. Joining Smith and Rhoden is Michael Wilbon, a longtime columnist for the Washington Post and now one of the premier voices at ESPN with his popular show, Pardon the Interruption. Congrats to Smith, Rhoden, and Wilbon for being the first inductees in the Black Sports Writers Hall of Fame. The Dodgers are 3-6 since starting the season 8-0. They dropped to third place in the NL West Division for the first time since June 18, 2023. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, y'all, come on. Come to
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah, gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey.
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, you know, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it. Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power. Fight the power.
During this time, it's important for everyone to know your rights. The 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments in the U.S. Constitution protects every one of us, regardless of immigration status. The 4th Amendment requires a judicial warrant to search your home. The 5th protects your right to remain silent, and the 6th gives you the right to an attorney. Just remember, no warrant, no key, my privacy. You don't have to speak. No lawyer inside. Don't say a thing. Yeah, we all got rights.
Hey, we all got rights.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to building a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and it is a pleasure to be in conversation with these two gentlemen, these two environmentalists, these two change makers on the front lines. Josh Tickell, who is a director and producer, and Ian Somerhalder, who is executive producer of two films that we've got to see. I'm talking about Kiss the Ground and Common Ground, and you don't have to wait too long. On Earth Day, April 22nd, you can join the live stream global watch party for the acclaimed documentaries. Again, Kiss the Ground and Common Ground, including a live Q&A. There's no better time to lean into what more we can do to protect Mother Earth, to protect the economy. I was just sharing with Ian and Josh during the break that, you know, our audience is mostly Black folks. And sometimes environmentalists talk about environmental issues as if they're foreign to Black folks, and that's not the case. You all know this, you know, coming up in Louisiana, you know, where the impacts of climate change, challenges around climate resilience show up in all sorts of ways. And so, Josh, you know, you have written about this. You have been, you know, a champion of environmental justice for a long time. For folks who are less familiar, give us a quick 101 on what regenerative agriculture is all about.
Well, first thing, regenerative agriculture is about resilience. It's about owning our food supply, not having somebody else own our food supply. Many of the techniques that we use today in modern regenerative agriculture came from Africa with people who were enslaved, who were brought to this country. So raised beds, using legumes to put nitrogen back in the soil. These techniques and technologies are thousands of years old, but we didn't invent them, right? They all came, every single one except for satellites and GIS came from indigenous people. And the Black community contributed substantially to that over the years. And we talk about that in the films. And I think it's a misnomer for, environmentalism has typically been a very coastal, very white thing. But now we're seeing racial justice and food justice join forces because it's the same issue. Food issues disproportionately affect people in Black and brown communities. These are food deserts. They're designed in a way so that the worst, most toxic, cheapest food gets pumped into those communities. And if you look at the power of the mind, the power of the body, these things are derived from the power of our food. So if we want powerful minds and powerful bodies, we've got to have good food. Doesn't matter what color we are. We all have the same blood, right? And so I think it's very important for us to understand that a huge component of the regenerative movement is embracing indigenous wisdom, including Black wisdom from Africa, from the Caribbean, understanding that that was the wisdom that built the agricultural backbone of America. It was the southern states that grew the cotton, that created that multi-million-dollar industry upon which we built this union, right? So, and it's our indigenous brothers and sisters who were here on this continent as well. And so it's a coming together versus a coming apart. It's a blending of our human family and the knowledge that we've gotten together. And regeneration means growing soil, growing the environment, growing healthy food. And we do that through simple techniques, through not tilling the soil as much as possible, growing cover crops, putting legumes to fix the nitrogen, using nature's technology to reinforce nature and to build it up and make it stronger. And when you do that, the nutrition in the food gets higher. Yep. What you consume gets more nutritionally dense. Your body and your mind respond. And we've seen cases where ADHD completely drops, ADD completely drops. Instances of autism where those symptoms have ebbed almost completely over and over and over and over again when people begin to switch to this regenerative diet. And it's not that complicated. We're cutting out the junk food, basically. Cutting out the things in the bags, the boxes, and the cartons in the middle of the grocery store. And we're beginning to grow our own food again. And that's a powerful statement for anyone to grow anything, whether it's a few tomatoes in a little planter box in your apartment, or it's an herb garden, or it's a veggie garden. Regeneration is about regenerating culture and going back to our roots and recognizing that we came from different places and we have different knowledge, and we have to honor that knowledge to get our ecosystem back functioning, pumping like a heart. That's what it's about.
I mean, going back to our roots, I think that's a message that is really going to resonate with a number of folks. We're seeing that in so many different forms. And, there are some pretty heavy hitters that are a part of these documentaries. Kiss the Ground features celebrities like Woody Harrelson and Jason Mraz, Gisele Bundchen, and then Common Ground. It features folks like Donald Glover and Rosario Dawson, to say the least. Talk to us about what you hope everyday people, who may be celebrated in their everyday life in some way, shape, or form, but, talk to us about what you hope everyday people walk away with after having watched these two incredible documentaries.
Three things: hope, action, and purpose. Because that last word, purpose, is this one little word that we're all searching for, whether we're 6 or 66, doesn't matter. And it's never really talked about, ever. It's the weirdest thing. So, but we're all searching for it, and it's very elusive. And there's not really much of an equation for it. They don't teach it in schools. They're not talking about it on the street. And you find that purpose when you marry skill with passion, right? So when you find the things you're good at and you find the things you love, you bring them together, boom, you find purpose, and then bam, your whole world opens up to you. That hope and awareness is great, but without action, it's nothing. So what we have the ability to do right now, it's like Josh just mentioned, whether it's a small veggie garden or you've got an acre you want to regenerate, we're about to make this very, very cool again. And I just want to point out, and Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm trying to remember, in 1930, there were 1 million
Oh, do we lose him?
Oh, I think we might have lost Ian for a second, but I'm sure Ian will come back. But Josh, while we still have you, pick up where Ian left off. There were 3 things he wanted folks to take from this film. In addition to his 3 things, what do you hope that folks take from this extraordinary set of films that will be public and available for folks to discuss in community on April 22nd? What do you hope people take away from it?
Really, the main thing is empowerment. We've been told we can't do anything about the environment. We can't do anything about climate. We can't do anything about our food supply. These films flip that narrative, and they show you what you can do. You're going to walk away and you're going to be like, I get it. The story that we've been told is that we're fat, sick, and almost dead, and that's just the way it is. And that couldn't be further from the truth. This is going to give you tools and techniques you can use with your family, you can use in your home, you can use in your garden, you can use in your kitchen. You don't have to know anything about food, nutrition, gardening, soil, none of it. And you're going to walk away empowered, changed, and filled with hope. That's why we want people to watch these films.
That's incredible. That's incredible. Well, our thanks to you both. We want to remind our leaders, learners, and listeners to participate in this global watch party. I think Ian is back with us. Ian, we lost you for a second, but your point was well taken. I'm excited. I will be live streaming, and I hope so many of our leaders, learners, and listeners will be live streaming on Earth Day, April 22nd. Join the live stream global watch party for both Kiss the Ground and Common Ground. And if you want to learn more about these movies, go to kissthegroundmovie.com and commongroundfilm.org. Thank you for being on the front lines of this movement, gentlemen.
Thank you. Hey, Doc, one thing I missed, I don't know what got cut out, but I just want to remind everyone, you want to talk about being empowered and things that are about to change. In 1930, and Josh, correct me if my numbers are right, in 1930, there were 1 million Black farmers in this country, and now there's 50,000. And that is not acceptable. And that is about to shift. We're seeing this massive shift. And just for everyone to remember that we are so divided that soil is our only common ground. And when we rebuild that soil, we rebuild our connection to one another. And like Josh was just saying, we're all part of the same human family, but all of that information, all of that indigenous or knowledge that we have, we're going to bring it together and we're going to build $100 billion a year carbon capture food economy, starting right here in this nation between the Carolina coast and the California coast. Thank you so much for your time. We'll see you April 22nd, live streaming the Global Watch Party.
Thank you both. You've been listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Looking for a purposeful and passionate way to make a difference in your community? Volunteer with our Senior Medicare Patrol and help prevent Medicare fraud. S&P volunteers work in their community educating peers about healthcare fraud and how to prevent and detect it. Free training starts soon. Check us out online or at an S&P open house near you. We're on a mission to stop fraud. Join our team. You make a difference. Visit caSMPvolunteer.org. Protect yourself from Medicare card scams. Scammers may call, email, or even knock on your door claiming they need your Medicare info, asking for money or threatening to cancel your benefits. Don't fall for it. It's a scam. Remember, Medicare doesn't need to verify your information. They already have it. Medicare won't charge you for a new card and will never threaten to cancel benefits. Check your Medicare statements for suspicious charges and report scams to the California Senior Medicare Patrol at 1-855-613-7080. We're here to help.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million+ products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them. The right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Still getting around to that fix on your car? You got this. On eBay, you'll find millions of parts, guaranteed to fit. Doesn't matter if it's a major engine repair or your first time swapping your windshield wipers. eBay has that part you need, ready to click perfectly into place. For changes big and small, loud or quiet. Find all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. But you already know that. eBay. Things, people, love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has worksource centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We face tragedy, but we don't fall into despair. We continue our work to build a more perfect union.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and it's about that time for the quiet part out loud. Listen, you'd have to be hiding under a rock this morning to not have seen or heard or read a post talking about the Blue Origin flight that took the first all-female flight crew to space. It was really extraordinary to watch. I have been reading a lot of the social media posts and a lot of the articles that have been written about the topic. And there was a critique that stood out to me. There are a few actually, but the freshest critique that stood out to me came from the New York Times with a headline that says, "One giant stunt for womankind." Blue Origin's all-female flight proves that women are now free to enjoy capitalism's most extravagant spoils alongside rich men. Ouch. In this New York Times article that was published today, they talked about how Jeff Bezos says that it's his generation's job to, quote, build a road to space so that future generations unleash their creativity. They write that now he's made his spaceship into the world's most extravagant influencer platform. The flight's roster seems to have assembled with the energy of the American Girl doll collection, with seats awarded to women with different claims to fame and relevance. There was pop star Katy Perry, journalist Gayle King, aerospace engineer Aisha Bowe, and feminist activist Amanda Guyon, as well as film producer Carrie Ann Flynn and Lauren Sanchez, a television journalist, aviation businesswoman, and philanthropist, and children's book author who's engaged to marry Jeff Bezos. Bezos' company promoted this as the first all-woman space flight since the Soviet Union became the first to send Valentina Tereshkova into space. That was way back when. But Blue Origin, they write, pitched the flight as a gambit to encourage girls to pursue STEM. And I think that's a worthy cause. I think it's possible that flights like this can be a lot of different things all at once. I don't think it's one or the other. I think it's a number of things. And I certainly understand the critiques around, billionaires and their pet projects. But when I watched that liftoff today, you couldn't help but notice, rather, when you saw Gayle King, for example, get on that spacecraft, she was scared. She was real scared. And she actually faced her fears. And there's something incredible about watching a Black woman, particularly a Black woman of a certain age, who's seen some things, who I'm sure seen some space shuttles go up and not return. For somebody who is afraid of heights and afraid to fly, there was something extraordinary about watching her face her fears. Yeah, I understand the critique about Bezos and the critique about capitalism, and I think those are worthy critiques. But as the Griot reported, King, was making a bit of history today. She made quite a bit of history today. We were reminded that we can still do and celebrate amazing things. Back on the ground, Gayle King, overjoyed, she shared that the experience was oddly quiet and peaceful, looking down on the blue planet. And she said to her, it's a reminder about how we need to do better, be better, do better, be better human beings. She said, it's so nasty and so vitriolic nowadays. If everybody could experience that peace that we had up there and the kindness and what it takes to do what we did, all the people that it took to get us up there and get us back safely, I'll never, ever, ever forget it. I think this is a good time to remind ourselves that every story has different frames, and that there are different sides to the same story. And we can celebrate and critique that story at the same time and still walk away better and do better. That's my take. What's yours? You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More in the next hour when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Black Maryland Attorney General Anthony Brown is highlighting a new FTC rule that makes it easier to cancel subscriptions online. The click to cancel rule, now in effect, requires companies to offer simple, easy-to-use cancellation options. West Virginia lawmakers have passed a bill banning DEI programs and trainings in government and schools.